Hello and welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where we're back with another top 10. This time it's 10 teams that didn't deserve to win a European trophy. Let's get into it. 10. Benfica 1961. We're kicking off this list with Benfica, and whilst we're not doubting they were a great side during this era, they were more than a bit fortunate to win the 1961 European Cup. Benfica had failed to qualify for the previous two tournaments, as at this time only league winners could qualify for continental football. And the Eagles only won the Primeira Liga the previous season by 2 points, a 1-1 draw against second place Sporting proving to be the difference between the two sides. Then we get to the European Cup itself, and Benfica had to beat teams from Scotland, Hungary, Denmark and Austria to reach the final. Nations that, despite an international footballing reputation, had underwhelming domestic leagues. Their opponents in the final, Barcelona, had a much tougher route to the big game, having to defeat the seemingly undefeatable Real Madrid in the first round, as well as needing a replay to overcome German champions Hamburg in the semi-final. With the iconic Bela Gutmann at the helm, Benfica managed to fight back from a goal down to win 3-2. The first of back-to-back European titles. Maybe it's harsh to say this was undeserved, but they were certainly fortunate with how it all panned out. 9. AC Milan 2003. Now, it was a toss-up as to which AC Milan team we were going to put in here. Their 1994 Champions League winning squad, despite a 4-0 win over Barcelona in the final, were considered a very negative team. They scored just 6 in 6 group matches that campaign, and just 36 in 34 in a Serie A winning season. But as that was the reputation Italian football held then, we decided to go for their 2003 squad. In the final, Milan featured the likes of Pippo Inzaghi, Pirlo, Rui Costa, Shevchenko, Seedorf and had Rivaldo on the bench. Back in an era when there was a second group stage, they found the net just 5 times in the 6 matches, somehow winning 4 games 1-0. And this drab play was a theme in the knockouts too, as they added 4 goals to their tally for the rest of the tournament, and it was only thanks to a 91st minute winner that they didn't fall to Ajax in the quarters. The final was the first goalless one in Champions League history, as Marcelo Lippi's side beat Juventus on penalties. Even half of the penalties in the shootout were missed, summing up a pretty underwhelming Champions League campaign for Milan. Just a quick reminder to subscribe to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss one of our top 10s. 8. Porto 2004. Up next are the winners of the following season's Champions League, FC Porto, with the final being known as the game that turned Jose Mourinho into the special one. After being poached by Chelsea in the summer of 2004, his side certainly rode their luck as they wrote their names into the history books. Finishing comfortably in second behind Real Madrid in the groups, the Dragons were drawn against Man United in the round of 16. As United were on the verge of qualifying on away goals, a 90th minute Costinha goal in the second leg saw them win 3-2 on aggregate, and this came after a Paul Scholes goal was wrongly disallowed for offside. In the semi-finals they faced a Deportivo La Coruña side who were riding the wave, having come from 4-1 down to beat Milan in the previous round, and despite Porto being outplayed for 180 minutes, edged through with a 1-0 aggregate win. And the ease of a 3-0 victory over Monaco in the final may have been different if they came up against an opponent with a little more big game experience. Although we're not trying to take anything away from Mourinho, Deco and Manish and co. 7. Real Zaragoza 1995. Our first foray away from the Champions League, where we now bring you a surprising winner of the Cup Winners' Cup. Scrapped in 1999, this competition produced a number of unlikely victors, including Aberdeen and Dinamo Tbilisi, but we're going for the 1995 champions Real Zaragoza. Qualifying as the 1994 Copa del Rey winners, Zaragoza eased past teams from Romania and Slovakia in the early stages, before upsetting Feyenoord in the quarters. Los Manos had their first taste of English opposition in the Final Four, and despite holding a 3-0 lead in the first leg, just held on to a 4-3 aggregate victory for another underdog triumph. This time it was Arsenal, the current holders of the competition. With Premier League icons like Seaman, Adams, Wright, Merson and Parler in the side, many expected them to achieve back-to-back wins, but they were taken to extra time by Zaragoza. Then the unthinkable happened. In the 120th minute, midfielder Nahim tried an audacious attempt from 40 yards, which flew over the head of Seaman to ensure the trophy was going back to northern Spain. The worst part of it all, Nahim was a former Spurs player, giving the Gunners' biggest rivals an unwanted claim to the trophy. 6. Inter Milan 2010. He's won 2 Champions League titles and Jose Mourinho now finds his second victory making the list as well. Depending on what you like, Inter's triumph in 2010 was either an iconic campaign or an underwhelming edition of the tournament. Yes, it may have come after the 5th straight Scudetto for the Nerazzurri and rounded off a treble this campaign too, but they didn't deserve one. The group stages saw them win just 2 games as they finished with 9 points, a record low for a winner in the 3 points era, and of all the finalists, only the 2019 Spurs side had a worse group stage. It was only victory against Rubin Kazan in the final match that qualified them for the knockouts, anything less likely resigning them to the Europa League. It was a relatively smooth passage to the final itself from there, but the trophy fixture exposed Inter for the sort of team they had become. Bayern Munich had twice as many shots as them, triple the amount of corners and almost 70% possession, yet Mourinho's counter-attacking style resulted in a 2-0 win for the Italians. Jose left that summer to try and become the first manager to win the title with 3 teams. He still hasn't managed it though. 5. Steaua 1986. A year before the dawn of Georgi Hagi and the golden age of Romanian football truly began, Steaua Bucharest became the first Eastern European side to win the European Cup. They may have been halfway through a 104 domestic game unbeaten streak, but in a weak league and backed up by the government, they didn't deserve to go so deep continentally. And it doesn't help that they were afforded a very favourable route to the European Cup final, somewhat undermining the feat itself. The Rossel Bastry faced the champions of Denmark, Hungary and Finland before facing Anderlecht in the semi-finals, but even that was a relatively comfortable 3-1 aggregate win. Meanwhile, their final opponents Barcelona, who the previous campaign won La Liga by 10 points, only defeated Sparta Prague and Porto on away goals, Juventus by a single goal, and needed penalties to overcome a surprisingly strong IFK Gothenburg. But with the final being played in Seville, Steaua were rank outsiders and faced an onslaught from their Spanish counterparts, but after 120 minutes had managed to scrape a goalless draw. Penalties came and goalkeeper Helmuth Duckerdam wrote his name into European Cup folklore, saving all 4 of Barca's penalties. Iconic, yes, but deserved? No. 4. Galatasaray 2000. Sorry Arsenal fans, but we're putting in another one of your final failures at number 4. Again, moving away from the Champions League briefly, this time we're taking a look at Galatasaray's success in the 2000 UEFA Cup. Now, this may have been a bright time for Turkish football on the whole, but a team with the quality that Arsenal had at the turn of the century should have dispatched them. As it happens, both sides were only in the UEFA Cup after finishing 3rd in their Champions League groups. This Gala side was one made up of Turkish internationals, including Hakan Suker, and fleshed out with ageing stars like goalkeeper Tafarel and Georgi Hagi and Popescu. Hagi wouldn't even see his team lift this trophy after seeing red in extra time. Bergkamp and Henry led the line for the Gunners though, with the likes of Overmars and Parla in support. And even with both Kanu and Suker coming off the bench, Arsene Wenger's team couldn't find the breakthrough. Tafarel was named man of the match as Galatasaray won 4-3 on penalties after a goalless draw. When a keeper picks up that award, it's usually a testament to how poorly the rest of his teammates really performed in the big game. 3. PSV 1988. Back to Western Europe for the next entrance on the list. In Guus Hiddink's first full season as manager, having been handed the PSV job in March 1987, the Eindhoven club went on to win a remarkable treble. But it is probably fair to say that winning the European Cup was more of an act of luck than it was of skill. Like Steaua 2 years before them, they were no doubt aided by the absence of English clubs from the competitions, who were banned as a result of the Heysel disaster. To give credit to PSV though, they definitely had to see off strong sides. So strong in fact that not only did they not win a game beyond the second round, they never led in one either. Putting aside Galatasaray and Rapid Vienna early on, they progressed past Bordeaux in the final 8 thanks to away goals following a 1-1 tie. And it was a case of deja vu in the semi-finals, holding on against the Real Madrid side featuring both Butragueño and Sanchez. Benfica were their opponents in the final, and like others in this list, they required penalties to lift the trophy. This meant that PSV had won just 3 games from 9 to become European champions. 2. Chelsea 2012. Of course we were going to include Chelsea's 2012 triumph in this list. Whilst they coasted through the groups under André Villas-Boas, a 3-1 first leg defeat to Napoli in the round of 16 cost the Portuguese coach his job. Roberto Di Matteo, whose previous managerial experience was with MK Dons and West Brom, somehow overturned that deficit and the dream was on. Benfica passed by in the quarters before that Torres goal in the 92nd minute of the semi-finals edged Chelsea past Barcelona 3-2 on aggregate. Momentum may have been on the Blues' side, but their final opponents were Bayern Munich, and the venue was to be their home stadium, the Allianz Arena. Chelsea were defensive, giving Ryan Bertrand his European debut as a second left-back. And it showed. In 120 minutes, Bayern had 35 shots, 20 corners, and saw an Arjen Robben penalty saved. Chelsea had just 9 attempts on goal and 1 corner, which just happened to be the source of Drogba's last-minute equaliser. And it was the Ivorian who netted the clinching spot kick in the shootout. And considering Chelsea had better teams that didn't win the Champions League, It's ironic that one as weak as this did. 1. Marseille 1993. If a team wanted to get to number 1 on this list, well, match fixing would do it. And that is exactly what Marseille, winners of the first ever Champions League, were alleged of doing that season. In fairness to they had qualified for the final of this inaugural edition legitimately, making their way through the knockouts before topping the group stage, which qualified them for the final. But it's here where things start to get a little bit murky. With the Champions League final against AC Milan on the horizon, Bernard Tapie and the Marseille board paid a number of Valencian players to throw the last game of the Ligue 1 campaign. If they did that, would win the league, and have players fit and healthy for the upcoming final. They did and were crowned Ligue 1 winners, and days later went on to defeat Milan in the final 1-0. A result that was not undeserved. But when the scandal leaked, Marseille was stripped of the league title, relegated to Ligue 2, and banned from Europe for a season. They did, however, keep hold of their European trophy, as those matches were not part of the scandal. But it's not like many would argue if they did lose this title. So guys, that was our rundown of 10 teams that did not deserve to win a European trophy. What about that Marseille victory? What a load of cheats. Horrible! Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!